Hello, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. If you are new, I'm Lucy and I share all sorts of videos on this channel that are to do with parenting and life as a family of 6. I'm a mum to 4 and I would love to have you subscribed if you're not already, so do click that button down there if you haven't. Today I'm going to be sharing the 10 girls' names that I love and won't be using. I love baby names. I watch so many baby name videos on YouTube despite the fact I will be having no more babies and have no more babies to name. There is just something about baby names that I quite like, and whenever I share baby name videos on this channel, they always get a really good response and I get some really fantastic comments and suggestions. So I thought I would share my 10 girls' names that I love but won't be using. Up until this point, I don't think I would have felt comfortable sharing the 10 names that I love and won't be using because I would have hated the thought that somebody would steal them. But because I am no longer in the baby having days of my life, I don't need these girls' names. I can hand them over to you. I would love for somebody else to use them, so I'm going to share them today. If boys' names are wheel bag and you are after boys' names, I have also shared a video on the 10 boys' names I love and won't be using. I'll pop a link to that in the description, as well as links to other baby name videos that I've done before, because I've done a few of them over the years. Before I get started, if you want to know a little bit about my kind of taste in names, I definitely veer more towards the slightly unusual, quite modern sorts of names. In the UK, I think a lot of people would consider this to be kind of like American type names. So if you're an American watching this, you might think those names don't sound particularly unusual, but they would be more unusual here, if that makes sense. So my children are called Dylan Aiden, Everly Grace, Adeline Quinn and Wylder Heath. So I feel like I probably got more unusual and braver as I went along. So Dylan is not a particularly unusual name. It's not a common name, but it's not, everybody has heard that name. Whereas by the time I got through to my 4th baby, which is Wylder, he is got a much more unusual name. But yeah, I definitely lean more kind of unusual, modern. So if you want to hear what my 10 favourite girls' names are that I love and won't be using, let's get started. The first one is the name Adeline. Now, I found this one when I was pregnant the 4th time and looking for names, and I love the name Adeline, like really love the name Adeline. But I already have a daughter who is Adeline Quinn. So although Quinn goes by Quinn, most of the time Adeline is her first name and she does know that it's her name, and I felt like Adeline and Adeline are just too similar. But to me, it's such a lovely name. We considered the name Addison when we were pregnant the first time for a girl, and I feel like Adeline is like the perfect kind of meshing together of like Addison and then the Lynn sound. I absolutely love Adeline. Please somebody use that name. I just love it, and it does make me a little bit sad that I won't have an Adeline. The next one, again, was a girl's name that I came up with 4th time around, and that is the name Cecily. Now, to be honest with you, Rich wasn't keen because he just looked at it and saw Cecil, which is perhaps not the coolest association with a name, but I think Cecily sounds so pretty, and I feel like it's kind of similar to names like Cecilia, so it doesn't sound completely wacky and out there. It's obviously also similar to the name Cecil, but I just thought it was really pretty. It looks really nice written down. It's a really kind of soft, cute name that I feel like would suit you as a baby and a toddler, but that you could easily grow with. But yeah, Rich couldn't drop the Cecil bit, and then the 4th baby ended up being a boy anyway, so I didn't need a girl's name. I think it's a really cute name. Now, this next name is the name that I would have used if my 4th baby had been a girl. This is my front-running name. I love it. It's the name Blakely. I don't even know where I heard the name Blakely, to be honest with you. I like the fact that you can pull the nickname Blake out of it, and I kind of do like kind of gender neutral names that kind of work for girls and boys. So I feel like Blake is a really cool nickname to pull out of Blakely, which definitely sounds more sort of pretty and girly. I love it. Like I said, if my 4th baby had been a girl, hands down 100%, she would have been a Blakely. This next one, Rich and I had so much debate over, it was ridiculous, and it is the name Finley. Now, Finley, for most people, is 100% a boy's name, but I don't even remember where I read it. I probably saw it somewhere online that it kind of could be used as a girl's name, and I automatically like fell in love. I loved it. Probably would have played around with the spelling a little bit to make it look a little bit less like Finley, the like well-known boy's name. We perhaps would have thrown in like a Y instead of an I and like made it just look a bit different. But I love the name Finley for a girl. I do kind of like names that lean kind of gender neutral and could be used for either anyway. But I just thought Finley was a really cool name for a girl. And once I'd started picturing a little girl with the name Finley, couldn't let it go. I thought it was really adorable. I really think it's a cool name. I feel like lots of those sort of more traditional boys' names are sort of transitioning across to girls' name. Like the name Noah is becoming much more popular for girls, isn't it? And I feel like Finley is another one that could definitely make that leap across to being a really cute girl's name. Another girl's name that I considered, this one was definitely considered third time and fourth time. But the reason why I didn't end up using it was because of the initial, and that is the name Isley. I think it's a really pretty name. I like the soft S sound in the middle. I think for us it just was a little bit too similar, and it also reminds me a little bit of, is it Ebony and Ivory? Everly and Isley. It's a bit too similar, isn't it? It would have sounded a bit strange. But I think it's such a nice name. It's kind of soft, modern, a little bit quirky, but not completely out there and wacky and crazy. It would also be like a nice swing on like the name Paisley, which is another one that I think is really sweet, or like a good alternative to like things like Evelyn, Emily. It's in that same kind of family but feels a little bit more unusual. This next one we got led to because, if you haven't already noticed, all of our children's names, their first names, have an L and a Y in. It was unintentional. Dylan and Everly just both had names with L's and Y's in because we liked those names. When we were pregnant the third time, we did kind of, wasn't a big deal breaker for us, but if we could find a name with an L and a Y in, it would have been nice, and we settled on the name Ashlyn, which has an L and a Y in. And then fourth time it did kind of become a bit of a deal breaker. If I'd absolutely adored a name that didn't fit, I would have still used it, but we did actively look for names with L's and Y's in, just because I liked the fact that it would kind of connect all the children's names together. And this is a name that we came across because of that, and it is the name Myla. I just think it's really sweet. It's very much in that kind of like fashion of those sorts of like short names that end in A, like the Ava, Aria, Mia, all those sorts of names that are very kind of popular at the moment. Again, unusual without being wacky. It would also make a really cute middle name, and again is a name that I feel like you could see taking you the whole way through life. Like it suits a toddler, suits a teenager, suits grown up. The next name on my list I absolutely adore, couldn't use because I have a friend whose daughter is called this, but love it, and that is the name Lyra. So I came across the name Lyra in my first pregnancy. This is before I knew somebody with a Lyra. Obviously now know somebody with a Lyra, so I wouldn't use it, but I think it's a really lovely name. I love the kind of lyrical quality to it. I think it's got such a nice sound to it. I probably wouldn't have used it also because it begins with an L, and I was kind of actively trying to avoid kind of matching up any of the initials of our names, but it's such a sweet name. This next name is one I came across from the lovely SJ Strum. If you are into baby names and you don't know about SJ, you need to go and find her now. I will link her channel below. I did a collaboration video with her when I was pregnant the fourth time, and she gave us kind of some name suggestions for babies, but one name that I came across while I was pregnant the fourth time was the name Fable, and I absolutely love it. I think it's such a sweet name. I love the fact it's kind of like Mabel or Abel, which is obviously a boy's name, but I feel like it doesn't sound too wacky. You could obviously pull the name Faye or Belle out of it. It's really, really cute nicknames. I love the fact that it kind of reminds me of like literary stuff because a fable is a story. I love the name Fable. I think we went backwards and forwards between Blakely and Fable. I think probably Fable would have ended up in the middle spot with Blakely, but I would have loved it as a first name too. I think it's so cute, so pretty, so unusual, but not wacky. It's adorable. Can you tell I love it? The next name was definitely a contender for a middle name if fourth baby had been a girl. You'll see why this is kind of funny when I tell you what it is, and that's the name Wild. Because obviously I have a Wylder. I probably don't think that I could have got away with using Wild in the front spot for a girl. Definitely would have considered it in the middle spot. I think Wild is an adorable girl's name. One I obviously won't be using, but I would love to hear somebody had used because I just think it's so lovely. And the final name on my list actually is probably the most unusual girl's name that Rich has ever thrown at me. This is one of his suggestions and I adore it, and it is the name Scout. So anybody that kind of knows anything about their books knows that Scout is a character in To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of Rich's favourite books. We actually considered the name Harper. Harper Lee's the author of To Kill a Mockingbird when we were pregnant the first time around. But the name Scout is just such a cute, you can just totally picture a real kind of outdoorsy, cheeky little toddler girl called Scout, can't you? And like I said, I completely fell in love with it because it was something that Rich suggested, and Rich doesn't tend to naturally lean more unusual. He has to be convinced on these more unusual names, and he tends to like stuff that's a little bit modern but not quite so crazy. But he loved the name Scout and I loved the name Scout, and then we ended up having a boy, so we didn't need a girl's name anyway. Just such a cute, nicknamey kind of name for a real kind of outdoorsy kid or an outdoorsy family. So those are my 10 girls' names that I love and will not be using. I would love to hear that somebody else would use them because they're just such adorable names. I would love to hear in the comments which ones are your favourites. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Do you have a favourite name that you need to share with me? Because like I said, I don't have any more babies to name, but I still love hearing different baby name ideas. So do hit me with your favourite ones in the comments. Do check out that 10 boys' names that I love and won't be using video as well if you want to see the kind of boy side of things. Thanks for coming and spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a lovely day whatever you're doing. I'll see you for another video really soon. Bye!